Hi, Carl here for ProVTV, and today we're taking a look at the much anticipated Flowtech 100 tripod. Now, the Flowtech 75 has been around for about a year now. It was announced back in September 2017 and has since become pretty much our best-selling mid to high-end tripod system around, which is quite a feat really for a new tripod nowadays. I mean, it's definitely got people excited about tripod design again, which is really quite impressive. And I think a lot of that is down to the mentality that they've taken with this design. It's all about making life as simple and as effortless as possible for you as the camera operator, and meaning you can move your tripod around and work with it just so much easier than a more traditional design. And not to mention it saves your back and stuff like that by moving all the controls up here to the top to stop you having to bend down and crouch and all the rest of it to work with your tripods. When I'm out and about using the Flowtech 75, I do genuinely find that I'm changing the height of my tripod head much more frequently than I am with a more traditional leg design. And so it really does make quite a difference to your filming. It's going to mean that it's much more effortless for you to get that shot which you want without you even having to think about it really. I just instinctively find myself moving around and being more creative when I'm working with this tripod. And pretty much since I made that first video on the Flowtech 75, I've just had comment after comment after comment of people asking for a 100mm bowl version. I mean, 75mm bowl heads are great. It's what the majority of us use, myself included, most of the time. But there's a lot to be said for moving up to a 100mm bowl system. If you're using larger camera rigs or using big slider systems, something like that, it really does make your entire setup much more sturdy and will stop things like your head slipping when you get to the end of the slider head, that sort of thing. They are far more professional and they open up a whole world of high-end heads. This is the Video 15 and Sachtler and Vinton and pretty much every other camera tripod manufacturer as well make some really lovely 100mm bowl heads, which are far more professional with far more high-end features on them. So, what is new with the Flowtech 100? To be honest, not that much. I mean, what we were asking for, after all, was exactly the same as the Flowtech 75, but with a 100mm bowl head. And that is what they've given us. Sachtler and Vinton have given us exactly that. They have made the legs slightly thicker in order to make room for this 100mm bowl at the top. And they have increased the max payload, of course, because it needs to take heavier systems. They can now take up to 30 kilos, whereas before with the 75, the max of the legs was 20 kilos. The big difference is this new mid-spreader. So it's a much chunkier, much more professional design for a mid-spreader, and this is pretty much the only part of this tripod system that has completely changed. Basically, the design behind this is based around making it as simple to go from the minimum height to the maximum height without having to disconnect and change much on the mid-spreader. So it means that people will actually end up using it a lot more than they did with the version on the 75, which is a great thing because I love using a mid-spreader. It means that you can pick up and move your system around like this, you can shake it and the legs aren't going to retract in on each other at all, which means that when you put the legs down, you've got to straighten each one out to make sure that they're as wide as possible for as stable a tripod as possible. And also to keep your horizons level, things like that. It just keeps the legs at the same distance apart from each other, regardless of what you're doing and where you're moving. So I'm really pleased to see them redesign and make a much more sort of professional and chunky mid-level spreader for this 100mm bowl version. So this is going to be available in October, and I'm really curious to see what you guys think of it. Is this what you were all waiting for with the 100mm bowl version of the Flowtech? And are you going to be picking one up, or do you prefer a 75mm bowl version? Let me know in the comment section down below, and if you want to buy or pre-order this tripod, of course, the links are in the description down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.